Lena had always lived a quiet life. She was a woman of simple tastes, content with her small apartment in the heart of town and the cozy routine she had built around her daily life. Every morning she woke up to the soft sunlight spilling through the window, brewed her coffee and walked to work at the local cafe. It was not a glamorous life by any means, but it was hers and she cherished its simplicity. She knew most people saw her as ordinary, and she did not mind that. She preferred being unnoticed, blending in with the crowd rather than standing out. Yet behind the calm and gentle exterior, Lena held a secret that few people knew. From the time she was a child, Lena had loved music. She had inherited an old piano from her grandmother, a sturdy instrument with a slightly yellowed finish, placed carefully in the corner of the living room. It had seen better days. Some of the keys were slightly chipped and the pedals had lost some of their shine. But to Lena, it was perfect. Every evening after finishing her work at the cafe, she would sit at the piano, her fingers tracing the keys as if they were a map to another world. She played not for anyone else but herself, allowing the music to carry her away from the worries of everyday life. The melodies she created were her sanctuary, a place where she felt alive and free. Despite her talent, Lena never performed in public. The thought of others listening to her made her uneasy. She feared judgment, imagined people criticizing every note and telling her she was not good enough. So she kept her music private, a precious secret she nurtured with devotion. It was her comfort, her escape, and she did not want to risk losing it by exposing it to the scrutiny of the outside world. One Thursday evening, Lena received an unexpected invitation. It was from a friend she had known casually for years, someone who often attended community events and knew Lena liked small gatherings. The invitation was to a local community event, a simple celebration at the town hall where people could share their talents, play games, and enjoy some food together. Lena hesitated when she saw it. She was not one for crowds, and the thought of being surrounded by people she barely knew made her nervous. But something about the invitation felt warm and friendly, so she decided to go. She told herself it would be just an evening of listening, of quietly enjoying the performances without needing to participate. When she arrived, the hall was already buzzing with energy. People were chatting, laughing, and moving about with plates of snacks in their hands. The smell of popcorn and freshly baked bread mingled in the air, and colorful decorations hung from the ceiling. Lena felt a little out of place at first, her modest dress and quiet demeanor making her blend into the background. She found a seat near the back and sat down, hoping to watch and enjoy without drawing attention to herself. The event was lively, filled with people showing off their skills. There were singers, dancers, and even a few people performing small magic tricks. Lena watched with mild curiosity, smiling at their enthusiasm. She noticed the joy and pride in the faces of those performing, and felt a quiet admiration. They seemed confident, fearless, and willing to put themselves out there in a way that she never had. For a moment, she wondered what it would be like to share her music with the world, but the thought was quickly pushed aside. She reminded herself that she was happy in her own space, playing the piano only for herself. As the performances continued, Lena's eyes wandered to the corner of the hall, where an old piano sat under a dim light. Its wooden surface was scratched and the keys looked worn, some slightly sticking, others uneven. It seemed like it had been there for years, mostly forgotten except as a decoration or a challenge for brave souls willing to try it. Lena's heart gave a small involuntary leap. She recognized the piano instantly. It reminded her of her own, the way its keys felt under her fingers, the way it could respond to every emotion if played with care. A quiet longing stirred within her, but she pushed it down, reminding herself that this was not her stage and she did not belong in the spotlight. Then, something unexpected happened. A group of friends standing near the piano noticed her watching. One of them, a man with a teasing smile, called out loudly, "Hey, why don't you play it? Though I doubt it can sound good." The comment drew laughter from the surrounding crowd. Lena felt her cheeks heat up. She looked down at her hands, feeling suddenly awkward and exposed. The attention was uncomfortable, and for a moment she considered ignoring it and walking away. But there was something in the way he said it, a mix of humor and challenge that tugged at her. It was almost like the universe was daring her to step forward. The teasing continued, growing louder as the group encouraged her to try. Lena's stomach twisted with nerves. The laughter felt heavier now, almost cruel, and she felt a sudden urge to flee. She had never been the type to seek attention, and the idea of standing in front of a crowd, even for a joke, was terrifying. Yet deep down there was a part of her that longed for the piano, that longed to feel her fingers dancing across keys, even if they were broken and uneven. Her heart battled with her fear, weighing the comfort of staying hidden against the pull of her passion. Finally, with a shaky breath, Lena made a decision. She stood up, her legs trembling slightly, and walked toward the piano. The room seemed to quiet down as she approached, curiosity replacing the laughter. People whispered to each other, casting sideways glances at the quiet woman who had suddenly chosen to step forward. Lena's hands hovered above the keys, a mix of anticipation and fear coursing through her. She took another deep breath, reminding herself that no one could take away the music that lived inside her. This was her moment, small and uncertain as it was. The first notes she played were tentative, uneven, almost hesitant. The broken keys resisted, producing odd sounds that echoed through the hall. For a brief second it felt like the worst possible outcome, and Lena's heart sank. But then, almost instinctively, she adjusted her touch, letting her fingers move with the flow of the melody she had carried inside her for years. She began to fill the gaps where keys were missing, improvising in a way that turned the piano's flaws into a unique texture. The music started to take shape, soft at first, then growing with confidence, each note carrying a piece of her spirit. The change was subtle at first, but it did not go unnoticed. The whispers in the room shifted from doubt to curiosity. People leaned forward, listening more intently, drawn by the unexpected beauty emerging from the old broken instrument. Lena closed her eyes, letting the music guide her, forgetting for a moment the crowd, the teasing, and even the worn piano itself. In that space there was only the music and her connection to it. She played with a passion that surprised even her, each note resonating with emotion and skill. As the melody unfolded, Lena felt a surge of joy and freedom she had never experienced before. She realized that the music had always been a part of her, waiting for the right moment to be shared. The piano, despite its flaws, responded to her touch in ways that felt almost magical. The room was filled with a sound that no one had expected, a music that seemed to transcend the ordinary, carrying the warmth and honesty of someone who truly loved what they were doing. People stopped talking, their attention captured entirely by the unexpected performance. Lena could sense the awe growing around her, a quiet reverence that replaced the laughter from moments before. By the time she finished, the room was silent for a heartbeat, as if no one could believe what they had just heard. Then slowly the applause began. At first tentative, then growing louder, more enthusiastic. People stood and clapped, some smiling in amazement, others shaking their heads in disbelief. Lena opened her eyes, feeling a rush of emotion she had never known. She had stepped out of her comfort zone, and instead of humiliation, she had experienced something far more powerful: recognition, not just from others but for herself. As she stepped away from the piano, her hands still tingling from the intensity of the music, Lena felt a new sense of confidence blooming within her. The crowd's admiration was not the reason for her joy, but it was a mirror reflecting back the truth she had always known. She had a gift, and it mattered. For the first time, she felt a connection between her private world and the public one, a bridge built entirely from her own courage and talent. She returned to her seat, still trembling slightly, but smiling from a place deep inside, knowing that her life had just changed in a way she could never have anticipated. After the initial applause, Lena returned to her seat, feeling her heartbeat still racing from the adrenaline. The warmth of the music still lingered in her chest, but now, reality began to settle back in. People around her were whispering in amazement, some looking at each other with wide eyes, still trying to process what they had just witnessed. A few of the organizers approached, their smiles hesitant, unsure whether they should congratulate her or ask how she had created such a miraculous sound on a piano that clearly seemed broken. Lena sat quietly, unsure how to respond. Compliments felt strange to her. She was not accustomed to attention. Her hands still hovered in her lap, tingling with the memory of the keys. She smiled softly, nodding at those who spoke to her, but mostly she remained silent, lost in her thoughts. The piano, once a fixture of the corner, seemed almost alive now, as if it had shared its own energy with her and the crowd. Meanwhile, the group that had originally teased her was noticeably different. The man with the teasing smile approached, looking a little embarrassed, but his expression softened. I didn't expect that, he admitted, scratching the back of his neck. I mean, I thought it would be funny. But what you did, it was incredible. Lena's lips curved into a small, shy smile. She nodded, her voice almost a whisper. Thank you, I just... Play. His tone carried a mix of apology and admiration. You don't know what you've just done. I can't even describe it. You have real talent. Lena felt her cheeks warm, both from the compliment and the realization that perhaps her music could touch more than just herself. She had always kept it hidden, thinking it was a private pleasure, but hearing someone acknowledge it made something stir inside her. Perhaps it was time to think beyond the safe walls of her apartment and the quiet evenings alone with her piano. The event continued, but the energy in the room had shifted. People who had been laughing and teasing now spoke in hushed tones, their curiosity and admiration replacing the previous jokes. Lena noticed children leaning closer, wide-eyed, some whispering to their parents about the music they had just heard. Even the older attendees, usually more skeptical about young talent, looked impressed, shaking their heads as they replayed the notes in their minds. The atmosphere had become more reflective, as if everyone had just experienced something rare and unexpected. Lena, sitting quietly, watched it all with a mixture of wonder and apprehension. She was not used to being the center of attention, and the sudden shift from ridicule to admiration felt overwhelming. Yet she felt a quiet pride that was different from the nervous excitement she had felt at first. This was not about showing off or proving herself. It was about sharing something deeply personal and finding that it resonated with others. She realized that her fear of judgment had kept her from experiencing moments like this. And now she was beginning to understand the value of stepping outside her comfort zone. As the evening went on, a local music teacher, a woman in her 50s named Clara, approached her with a kind smile. Clara had been observing from the back, quietly impressed by Lena's performance. You have a rare gift, she said softly. I could tell from the moment you touched the keys. Most people need years of training to create the kind of music you just did instinctively. Have you ever considered sharing it more often? Lena hesitated. I usually just play at home, she admitted. I never thought anyone would want to hear. Clara nodded, understanding. Some people are shy, but talent like yours shouldn't stay hidden. You have a way of making a broken piano sound beautiful. That's a skill not everyone has. Her words lingered in Lena's mind. She had never thought of her music in that way, as something that could inspire or move others. It had always been her escape, a personal solace. But hearing someone articulate the impact of her playing made her consider possibilities she had never allowed herself to imagine. She realized that the piano, though broken, had given her an opportunity to show what she was capable of. And perhaps in a world so focused on perfection, her ability to turn imperfection into beauty was something remarkable in itself. As she mingled with a few of the attendees, Lena noticed a change in how people treated her. Conversations that would have been ordinary now carried curiosity and admiration. People asked her questions about her music, how she learned, and whether she had played professionally. She answered simply with humility, explaining that she had learned from her grandmother and had always played for herself. The sincerity in her voice seemed to resonate, and she found herself enjoying the interactions more than she expected. It was a new experience to have others appreciate something she had kept private for so long. One of the younger attendees, a boy no older than 10, tugged at her sleeve and whispered, "Can you teach me to play like that someday?" Lena laughed softly, her heart warming at the innocence and enthusiasm. "Maybe someday," she said, unsure whether she could teach but feeling encouraged by the interest. It was moments like this that made her begin to see the broader impact her music could have. Despite the positive attention, there were still moments of doubt. Lena found herself questioning whether this experience would last, or if it was just a fleeting moment of attention. She had always been cautious, fearing that exposure would bring disappointment or criticism. Yet as she reflected on the evening, she felt a quiet determination stirring within her. She had discovered a strength she did not know she possessed, the courage to share her gift even in the face of uncertainty. And for the first time, she considered what life might look like if she embraced that strength more fully. After the event ended, Lena walked home slowly, replaying the evening in her mind. The streets were quiet, lit by the soft glow of street lamps, and the gentle hum of the town provided a peaceful backdrop to her thoughts. She felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration, her mind buzzing with reflections on what had just happened. The piano, once a private companion, had become a bridge connecting her to others in a way she had never imagined. She realized that sharing her music was not about seeking validation. It was about creating moments of connection, even with strangers, and discovering that her passion had the power to touch hearts. That night, back in her apartment, Lena sat at her own piano, her fingers hovering above the keys. The memories of the community hall performance replayed vividly in her mind. She played softly, experimenting with melodies, her music now carrying a newfound confidence and sense of purpose. It was different from the evenings she had spent alone before. Now each note felt like a conversation, a dialogue with the world outside her apartment. She understood that this was only the beginning, that there were opportunities and experiences awaiting her if she chose to step forward. In the days that followed, Lena could not shake the feeling of excitement and possibility. Friends and acquaintances who had attended the event continued to talk about her performance, sharing their amazement and encouraging her to play more often. Invitations to small gatherings and local events began to trickle in, each one a chance to explore her talent further. Lena approached these opportunities cautiously, but with a growing sense of curiosity and confidence. She realized that while her life had been comfortable and predictable, there was now a spark of change, a promise of experiences that could enrich her world in ways she had never allowed herself to imagine. Through it all, Lena remained humble, her nature unchanged. She did not play for fame or recognition. She played because it was a part of who she was, but she also learned that her music had the power to move others, to inspire admiration and awe, and perhaps even to change lives in small, meaningful ways. And with each new performance, she felt herself growing, not just as a musician, but as a person discovering the courage to step beyond the familiar, embracing the unknown, and allowing her true self to shine. The days after the community event brought a mixture of excitement and nervousness to Lena's life. She still played her piano at home, but now each note carried a new awareness. She understood that her music could reach beyond herself, that it could affect people she had never met. Even though she had always cherished her private world, the memory of the audience's astonished faces had awakened something within her. She began to consider the possibility of performing again, cautiously imagining herself standing before others, sharing her gift. One afternoon, a letter arrived in her mailbox. It was from the event organizer, inviting her to participate in a local talent showcase that was scheduled for the following month. Lena stared at the envelope, heart racing, unsure how to feel. The thought of performing in front of an audience made her stomach twist with nerves, but a small spark of curiosity flickered within her. What if she could recreate the same magic she had found on the broken piano? What if her music could reach more people? If only she had the courage to try. She spent several nights thinking about it, weighing her options. Part of her wanted to decline, to return to the safety of her small routines and familiar walls. But another part, a quieter, braver part, urged her to embrace the opportunity. She remembered Clara, the music teacher, telling her that talent like hers should not remain hidden. That thought lingered in her mind, pushing her toward a decision. Eventually, Lena took a deep breath and accepted the invitation, deciding to challenge herself and see where her music could go. In the days leading up to the showcase, Lena practiced more than ever. She experimented with new melodies, exploring harmonies and rhythms she had never dared to try before. Her apartment became a small haven of sound, the air vibrating with the energy of her music. Sometimes she would pause and listen to herself play, amazed at how her fingers seemed to instinctively find beauty even in mistakes. The broken piano at the community hall had been a test of adaptability, but her own piano, familiar and dependable, allowed her to refine her skills and explore the depth of her talent. Despite her dedication, anxiety never fully left her. She imagined herself on stage, the audience watching, waiting, and she could feel the same nervous tension that had gripped her the first time she played publicly. But with each practice session, she grew more confident, her nerves slowly giving way to a quiet determination. She realized that fear was not a sign of weakness, but a natural companion to growth. The challenge of performing again felt less daunting when paired with the excitement of sharing something she loved. The day of the talent showcase arrived, and Lena felt a mixture of anticipation and apprehension as she walked toward the hall. She carried a small bag with sheet music, though she had long since memorized the pieces she planned to play. The hall was filled with people from the town, buzzing with excitement and curiosity. Lena felt a pang of nervousness, but she reminded herself that she had faced attention before and had survived. This was her chance to step further into the light, to see how her music could touch more hearts. When it was her turn, Lena walked onto the stage with a quiet grace. The piano awaited her, polished and well-maintained, far different from the broken instrument she had played weeks before. She approached it, her fingers brushing the keys, feeling the familiar resistance and promise of sound beneath her touch. For a moment she closed her eyes, grounding herself, remembering the joy and freedom she had felt the first time she had shared her music with others. The memory steadied her, giving her the courage to begin. The first notes resonated through the hall, soft but clear, immediately capturing the attention of the audience. Lena's fingers moved with precision and feeling, weaving a melody that was both delicate and powerful. She poured her emotions into every phrase, allowing the music to tell a story without words. The audience, initially quiet, leaned forward, drawn into the unfolding performance. Children held their breath and adults exchanged glances, recognizing that they were witnessing something truly special. As Lena played, her confidence grew. She experimented with dynamics, letting the music swell and recede, creating moments of tension and release that felt alive and human. Her heart guided her fingers, translating emotion into sound. Each note carried her story, the years of practice, the secret hours of joy and solace spent at her piano. The hall seemed to transform, the air vibrating with the sincerity and passion of her performance. The performance reached its climax with a melody that combined technical skill and raw feeling. Lena's hands moved rapidly yet gracefully across the keys, creating a cascading wave of sound that resonated in the hearts of everyone present. The room was filled with an almost tangible energy, as if time itself had paused to allow the music to take center stage. Lena felt a deep connection to the audience, sensing their awe and engagement, and she allowed herself to revel in it. It was a new experience to feel her music as a shared journey rather than a private escape. When she finally brought the piece to a close, there was a moment of stunned silence. The hall seemed suspended, the echoes of the last notes lingering in the air. Then slowly the applause began, growing louder and more enthusiastic with each passing second. People rose to their feet, clapping, cheering, and smiling in admiration. Lena felt tears prick at her eyes, a mixture of relief, pride, and pure joy. She had faced her fears, and in doing so, had created something that resonated deeply with others. After the performance, several attendees approached her, eager to express their admiration and ask questions. Some wanted to know how she had learned to play with such feeling. Others wanted to hear more of her music. Clara, the music teacher, stood by her side, beaming with pride. "I knew it," she said softly. "You have an extraordinary gift, and now you're starting to share it in ways that matter." Lena nodded, her heart full, understanding that this was only the beginning of a journey she had once thought impossible. In the days following the showcase, Lena received invitations to perform at small events, local gatherings, and even online platforms where she could share her music with a wider audience. Each invitation was a reminder of the connection she had created, the impact of allowing herself to step into the light. She began to practice with renewed focus and purpose, knowing that her music had the power to inspire, to bring comfort, and to create moments of beauty in the lives of others. Lena's confidence continued to grow, not because she sought recognition, but because she realized that sharing her music was an act of courage and generosity. She understood that her gift was not only for her own enjoyment, but also for the joy and inspiration it could bring to those who listened. And with each performance, she discovered new layers of herself, strengths, emotions, and abilities that had remained dormant while she had stayed in the shadows. Through it all, Lena remained grounded and humble. She did not see herself as a prodigy or a celebrity. She was simply a woman who loved music and had found the courage to share it. Yet even in her humility, she could not deny the transformative power of the experience. Each performance was a journey, a dialogue with the world, and a testament to the beauty that could arise from quiet dedication, courage, and passion. By the end of the month, Lena had become a small sensation in her town. People spoke of her talent with wonder. Children tried to emulate her melodies at home, and local musicians sought her collaboration. She continued to play her own piano in her apartment, but now every note was imbued with a sense of purpose and possibility. The quiet woman who had once been content to remain unseen had begun to step forward, sharing her gift and discovering the joy of connection, admiration, and the limitless potential of her own talent. For Lena, the journey was far from over. The broken piano at the community hall had been the spark, the first test of her courage. Now, with every new opportunity, she learned more about herself, about the power of music, and about the ways in which a simple act, sharing her passion, could create ripples of beauty in the world. Each note she played became a story, a testament to resilience, humility, and the extraordinary potential hidden within ordinary lives. The months following Lena's first showcase brought a quiet transformation in her life. She was no longer just the woman who worked at the cafe, who walked through her small town with her head down and eyes on the pavement. People began recognizing her in the streets, sometimes pausing to greet her, their voices filled with admiration. It was a strange feeling, one she had never sought, but it was also affirming. Her music had created a connection that went beyond words, and with each encounter, Lena began to feel more comfortable accepting the acknowledgement that came her way. It was during one of these ordinary mornings that Lena received an unexpected message. A small local theater, known for hosting cultural events, invited her to perform in a larger recital that was part of a community arts festival. The opportunity was far greater than anything she had anticipated, and her heart raced at the thought. She felt the familiar tug of fear and excitement intertwined, but she knew she could not ignore it. This was a chance to step even further into the world she had only just begun to explore, and she decided to accept. The preparation for the recital became an important focus in her life. Lena practiced diligently, experimenting with pieces that challenged her and allowed her to express deeper emotions through her playing. She worked on refining her technique, but more importantly, she concentrated on conveying feeling in each note, each chord. Music had always been her refuge, but now it was also a bridge, a way to communicate with people she would never meet personally. Each day, she felt her confidence grow, and the nerves that once paralyzed her began to transform into anticipation. When the day of the recital arrived, Lena walked into the theater and was immediately struck by its size and the expectant atmosphere. The stage was larger than the community hall she had first played in, and the piano gleamed under the stage lights. She felt a moment of hesitation, imagining the sea of faces waiting to hear her, but then she reminded herself of the broken piano that had once been the test of her courage. She had faced uncertainty before, and she had found her voice. With that memory, she took a deep breath and approached the piano. As she sat down, the audience was already silent, their attention drawn to the modest woman on stage. Lena's fingers touched the keys and she began to play. The first notes were soft and tentative, but she quickly found her rhythm, letting the music flow naturally. The hall seemed to listen, the air vibrating with the beauty of her melodies. Lena felt herself becoming one with the piano, each note expressing emotion she had previously only felt internally. The music carried not just skill but her heart, her experience, and her courage. The audience was captivated. People leaned forward in their seats, their eyes fixed on her hands moving across the keys. Whispers of admiration spread quietly, some shaking their heads in disbelief at the talent that had come from such an unassuming woman. The music grew in complexity, weaving together themes of joy, sorrow, and hope. Lena's nerves melted away, replaced by a profound sense of presence and purpose. Every note resonated with a story, and the hall seemed to hang on each one. Midway through her performance, Lena improvised a section that was entirely new, inspired by the emotions swirling inside her. She had never played it for anyone before, not even in her apartment. The melody was bold and daring, yet filled with warmth. The audience sensed it, responding with silent awe, their focus unbroken. In that moment, Lena felt an extraordinary connection with everyone present. Her music had become a language, one that transcended words and reached directly to the hearts of those listening. By the time she finished, the hall erupted into applause. It started softly, then swelled into a thunderous ovation. People rose to their feet, cheering, clapping, and some even wiping tears from their eyes. Lena felt her own tears welling up, a mix of relief, joy, and pride washing over her. She had stepped far beyond the boundaries she had set for herself, and in doing so, she had shared something profoundly personal and beautiful. The applause was more than recognition. It was validation of her courage, her dedication, and the impact of her music. After the performance, Lena was approached by several attendees, including local musicians and event organizers. They expressed their admiration and encouraged her to consider performing more regularly, even professionally. A few offered to connect her with music teachers and mentors who could help refine her skills further. Lena listened politely, feeling a mix of humility and excitement. She had never envisioned this kind of attention, yet she also understood that her music could reach far more people if she allowed it. That evening, as she walked home, Lena reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. The quiet, simple woman who had once played in solitude was now recognized for her talent and bravery. She realized that the act of stepping forward, of trusting her abilities and embracing vulnerability, had opened doors she had never imagined. Each performance was not just about music. It was about growth, courage, and connection. In the following weeks, Lena continued to receive invitations to perform at small events and gatherings. She also began teaching a few local children who expressed interest in learning the piano. Guiding them, she discovered a new sense of fulfillment, seeing their faces light up as they mastered notes and melodies. It was a reminder that her music had the power to inspire, not just entertain, and that her gift could be shared in many forms. Lena's life became a delicate balance between her work at the cafe, her music, and her growing presence in the community. She remained humble and grounded, never seeking fame, yet she could no longer deny the impact of her talent. Each time she sat at the piano, she felt the same thrill as the first time she had played for an audience, combined with the confidence that came from knowing she had something meaningful to offer. Through it all, Lena maintained her simple nature. She continued to find joy in quiet mornings, a cup of coffee, and the gentle routines of her everyday life. Yet now there was a new dimension to her existence, a life filled with music, connection, and the quiet acknowledgement that she was capable of far more than she had ever imagined. Her story was no longer just about hidden talent. It was about courage, transformation, and the extraordinary possibilities that arise when one chooses to step forward and share their gift with the world. And as Lena played each evening, whether for an audience or alone in her apartment, she understood that every note carried not only the story of her journey, but also the potential to inspire and touch the lives of those who listened. She had discovered that the simplest acts, sitting at a piano, following one's passion, and embracing vulnerability, could lead to profound, life-changing experiences. Music had become her voice, her bridge to the world, and her reminder that even the quietest, most unassuming person could create ripples of beauty and impact far beyond themselves. In the months that followed her major recital, Lena's life continued to change in ways she had never imagined. Each day brought new opportunities, and she began to embrace them with quiet determination. She still worked at the cafe, enjoying the familiar rhythm of her daily routine, but now music had taken a larger role in her life. Invitations to perform at small community events, local gatherings, and private parties became more frequent. Each performance, no matter how small, was a chance to connect with people, to share a part of herself that had been hidden for so long. One evening, Lena received a message from a small music academy in the city. They had heard about her performances and wanted to feature her in a series of student workshops. The idea of traveling outside her small town and playing in front of a different audience was both exciting and nerve-wracking. She thought about the old piano in the community hall, the broken keys, and the way her fingers had found music despite the challenges. That memory gave her courage. She accepted the invitation, eager to explore new horizons while continuing to grow as a musician. The workshops were held in a spacious studio, filled with young students eager to learn. Lena began by demonstrating a simple melody, letting the students watch her fingers as she played. The children were mesmerized, some leaning forward to get a better view, their eyes wide with admiration. Lena explained each step patiently, sharing not just technique but also the joy of music. She encouraged them to experiment, to make mistakes, and to discover their own style. Seeing the children's excitement and curiosity reminded her of her own journey, the first time she had dared to play for others. As the workshops continued, Lena began to notice the impact she was having. Students who had been timid and hesitant found their confidence growing. They learned to trust their own instincts, to find beauty in the notes they played, just as she had learned to do. For Lena, it was a deeply rewarding experience. Teaching became more than just passing on knowledge. It was a way to inspire, to nurture passion, and to create a ripple effect that extended far beyond her own performances. She felt a sense of purpose she had never felt before, knowing that her love for music was influencing others in meaningful ways. One afternoon, after a particularly engaging workshop, Lena was approached by an older student, a teenager with a quiet demeanor. He had been struggling with his confidence, unsure if he could ever play well enough to perform in public. Lena sat with him, guiding his hands on the keys, and encouraged him to play a simple piece he had been practicing. As the notes flowed under his fingers, his face lit up with surprise and pride. "I did it," he exclaimed. Lena smiled warmly, seeing in his eyes the same spark that had once been inside her. It reminded her of the power of music to transform, to give courage and hope. Meanwhile, her own performances continued to draw attention. People in the community talked about Lena with a mix of admiration and awe. The woman who had once been quiet and unnoticed was now celebrated for her talent, humility, and generosity. Lena felt a gentle pride, but she remained grounded, never allowing recognition to overshadow the joy she found in simply playing. Each performance, each workshop was a reminder that music was a gift meant to be shared, not a tool for self-glorification. Lena also began collaborating with other musicians in her town. A small group of local artists invited her to join them for a series of performances that combined piano, string instruments, and vocals. The experience was new and challenging, requiring her to adapt her style and listen closely to others. Yet it was exhilarating. She discovered new dimensions of her talent, learning to communicate and harmonize with fellow musicians. Together, they created performances that were richer, fuller, and emotionally moving. Lena realized that sharing her music with others could enhance its impact, creating a sense of unity and connection that was truly special. Despite her growing involvement in music, Lena never lost sight of her simple life. She continued to enjoy quiet mornings with a cup of coffee, walks through the town, and the comforting routine of the cafe. Music was no longer just a private sanctuary. It had become a bridge to the world, connecting her to people, places, and experiences she had never imagined. The balance between her personal life and her growing public presence gave her a sense of stability and fulfillment. One evening, Lena received a message from a local journalist who had heard about her journey from quiet musician to community inspiration. The journalist wanted to interview her for a small feature story, to highlight how her talent and courage had transformed her life and influenced others. Lena felt a flutter of nervousness, but she agreed. During the interview, she spoke honestly about her journey, her fears, her moments of doubt, and the unexpected joy of sharing her music. She emphasized that talent was only meaningful when paired with courage and the willingness to connect with others. Her words resonated, and the story was published, inspiring readers who had never met her. As the year progressed, Lena was invited to perform at larger venues, including city festivals and charity events. Each invitation brought a mixture of excitement and apprehension, but Lena had learned to trust herself. She understood that her music was not about perfection, but about honesty and emotion. Her performances became more than entertainment. They were experiences that touched hearts and uplifted spirits. She played with a depth and sincerity that drew people in, creating moments of shared beauty and understanding. Through it all, Lena remained humble and approachable. She continued to mentor young musicians, attend community events, and maintain her daily routines. She valued the small joys of life as much as the recognition her talent had brought. Music had given her confidence, purpose, and connection, but it had also taught her the importance of humility, kindness, and staying true to herself. By the end of the year, Lena reflected on the incredible journey she had experienced. From the timid woman who had once played on a broken piano at a community hall, she had grown into a musician who inspired others, touched hearts, and embraced life with courage and grace. She realized that her talent had always been a part of her, waiting for the right moment to emerge. That moment had arrived, and she had seized it, transforming not only her own life but also the lives of those around her. In the quiet of her apartment one evening, Lena sat at her piano, letting her fingers dance across the keys. The music flowed effortlessly, filled with emotion, memory, and hope. She thought about the children she had taught, the audiences who had listened, and the friends she had made along the way. Every note carried a piece of her story, a reminder of the courage it had taken to step forward, and the beauty that could arise when one embraced their true self. Lena smiled softly, feeling a deep sense of peace. She had discovered that even the simplest life could hold extraordinary potential, and that the act of sharing one's passion could create ripples of joy and inspiration that extended far beyond what anyone could imagine. In that moment, Lena understood something profound. Life's most extraordinary gifts often emerge from ordinary beginnings, and true courage is not about seeking recognition, but about daring to share what is most real and meaningful within oneself. She played on, the music filling her apartment, the town, and in some invisible way, the hearts of all who had been touched by her journey. Her story was one of quiet bravery, persistence, and the transformative power of following one's passion, and she knew that this was only the beginning of a lifetime of music, connection, and inspiration.